I always love getting emails from Mike Cohn. He's a dear friend, and the topics are always relevant and they're always cool. So, this week, we're going to talk about 5 factors to consider when prioritizing. So, not only do you need to build the right features, but you should try to build them in the right order. I tell people this all the time. Sometimes it's one of these things where I hear people say, oh, well, this is the most urgent feature, but if you don't build it in the right order, who cares? Because sometimes these things don't operate as a standalone piece. So, these are 5 key factors you should consider when prioritizing a product backlog. Number one, right at the top of the list, is value. Naturally, you need to consider how valuable a feature will be. Value, though, is a nebulous term. Most work a team will pursue will be valuable to the users, but other work may be valuable just to the team internally, or other work may be valuable to both users and team members. For example, consider refactoring, improving the structure, but not the behavior of your code. Because this makes the code more maintainable or easier to change, developers value refactoring it and often request time to do it. Still, the cost of refactoring is usually justified by the way it benefits the users, too. In turn, if the code is more maintainable, users should experience fewer defects. Similarly, improved code means that users would receive or should receive new features in that area of the product a little bit more quickly, which is true because you're not fighting, navigating bad code or poorly written code or poorly stored code or any of those things. All right, number 2 on the list is learning. When prioritizing a backlog, consider how much the team will learn by developing each backlog item. For example, when a team develops a preliminary version of a feature, team members give feedback on whether users like it and how they're using it. If users love a feature, enhance that feature and consider doing things like it. Other learning is about how to build a product. This might occur when a team uses a new technology for the first time. They might learn if the technology works as promised, or if they can develop as quickly with it as they thought they could, or there might be useful elsewhere in a product to use that emergent technology. Learning about what to build and how to build it are both valuable. Okay, next on my list is cost. The third thing to consider when prioritizing is cost. The largest cost is usually the team's effort to develop the feature. Most teams estimate the effort, product backlog items, in story points, but some estimate in person days or ideal days or other units, not preferred, I hope. In some cases, there may be additional costs that should be considered. A current common consideration is the ongoing cost of delivering features that rely on various AI products. These products often include small per use fees, but can certainly add up at scale. So, regardless of the unit in which the team estimates their product backlog items, and that cost to develop and support the feature should factor into the item's priority. For example, an item a team estimates 5 should be prioritized higher than a feature estimated 20 if all else is equal. This is true whether you use story points, person days, person hours, ideal time, or any of the unit. Let's stop there for a minute. So, I understand where Mike's going with this. It's just, I think we need to get our head around, 5 things are hard to balance. It's worse than weighted shortest job first, right? It's just a lot to try to balance on your plate. So my first issue is just I don't know that anybody's going to be able to measure all this. Who's going to be involved? The amount of time it takes to measure all this to get that objective stack rank. So I would almost rather use an objective stack rank formula and then come back after and use this as supplemental application to sort through similar items because I think that would be better, right? And the second thing I noticed is, he notes here whether using story points, person days, person hours. I guess he's come to the conclusion that there's just some organizations and some people that no matter how hard you insist, they're not going to switch to story points. And I get it, but at the same time, I have such a great explanation for this. And I've used it tons in class. I don't let people settle for person days or person hours just because each person's going to operate differently. They have different skill sets, different tools they're going to use, different levels of experience. So what might be a 1 person day for one person might be a 1.5 for another person or 0.86 for another person. It just doesn't make sense when you pull time into the equation. The fourth factor to consider is risk. Risk is inherent in developing a product backlog item. If something is risky, you need to do it. Do it early. Do it sooner. You want to know whether the risk is going to materialize. On the other hand, if a feature is risky, you may not need to develop it and delay working on it until it becomes clear that you absolutely need to do it. So I see both sides of the coin here, Mike. For me, I say if it has any kind of inherent infrastructure or architecture risk, do it right away. But if it's something massive that you may or may not need, definitely delay is better. Okay. Uh, and the final factor you should consider when prioritizing is dependencies. If you have dependencies between product backlog items, some items may not be high priority on their own, but they're necessary to deliver another high priority item. When that's the case, the enabling but lower priority item needs to be escalated to be a higher priority item so that it can be done since something else is dependent on it. This just makes a lot of sense. So usually I say if there's a dependency or if it's not just a dependency. So number one is dependency. Number two is if it's not necessarily a dependency, but it's something that we have to get done um, to fit something into a sprint. So the way I word it is if a team can do 20 units of work and you're booked up to 18, you might have to skip across categories, find another two. And then the third reason you would do this is because the product owner said so. There have been times where product owner said, I want to do this item. It's a could have in Moscow. That's low priority, but the product owner saw some urgency there, so we need to do it. So the product owner said so is the other big reason. But I think the big thing is you need to figure out how to combine these factors and triangulate. So while all five factors are important, I don't recommend combining them through a fancy formula. The value of a feature and its cost are first and second factors are the most important. Continue to prioritize, then using the other three factors. So what he's doing is he's doing the same exact thing that I typically do. I usually use three factors. I use Moscow priority and the base estimation in t-shirt size. And if you could do this to backlog item level, it's going to help you get an objective stack rank that you can then tweak as you need to. So if you want to learn more about objective stack ranking, shoot me over an email and I'll be happy to share with you what I have on objective stack ranking, because I really do feel like over time that has been the absolute best way for us to get things stack rank, and it could always be tweaked or adjusted as needed by the team. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com is where you're right. We would love to hear from you. I can tell you now, Mike, your emails are always incredible, and I appreciate it. And the subject matter is always good. So until next time, stay agile, stay healthy, and stay well, my friends. Do take care. We'll talk soon.